Hey, what up, what up? Just want to make a quick video. Um Today is fight day. Today's fight day. Um Very excited. Um I could say this. Um Whenever it's like a Tank fight, I don't know, like maybe because he's one of my favorite fighters or whatever, but it feels sort of like a holiday or something like a Super Bowl, or it just feels really like something really big is happening, like, and everything in the world is just must stop or is stopping. But I guess that's the kind of gravity he garners with his fight, is because his style of fighting, or the way he approaches fighting, or the ability he has in that ring, and it's because of his explosiveness. Like, you're waiting for something to happen. He has that same, I could imagine he has that same gravity that Mike Tyson had back in the 90s. Like, he has that same kind of pull and gravity when it comes to being in that boxing ring. But it's fight day. Frank Martin um versus, or should I say, Gervonta Davis versus Frank Martin. Um and they also got some also has a good undercard. You got um David Benavidez versus Alexander Volzik. And you also have who else? Gary Antoine Russell versus this guy named Puello. Um, and who else is on the other undercard? You also have Carlos Adames versus Goucher. So you got some good couple fights under the undercard. You got very notable names, but I mainly want to focus on the Tank Davis fight and the Frank Martin, and I'll touch on the David Benavidez versus Alexander Volzik. So I'll give those two predictions in this video. But I want to start with the Tank Davis fight versus Frank Martin. There's a lot to cover. With this, and I'm just gonna say straight off the bat, I got Tank winning by stoppage, knockout. But I want to focus on certain things right now, because I don't know, like, just leading on to the couple press conferences, the last press conference, and I'm gonna say this: Frank Martin is a very good fighter, a very good fighter. I don't think he does anything in that ring exceptionally well at a high level. Like, there's nothing like that stands out, but I think he does everything pretty good, if you get what I'm saying. I think his defense is solid. I like his defense. He's very alert, athletic, strong. He looks determined, that kind of stuff. But there's nothing he does exceptionally well. Or let's say this, in comparison to Gervonta Davis, I don't think he does anything better than Gervonta Davis. I think he does everything pretty well, pretty good, but I think Tank Davis does everything better than Frank Martin. Frank Martin, one of his best performances, where you got to see everything on just clicking for him and just doing very well, was the Michelle Rivera fight. Michelle Rivera was actually the favorite for that fight. And so the way I remember when I watching that fight, I'm like, wow, Frank Martin is sharp. Everything was sharp. He was fast. His defense was good. The way he went from defense to offense, the way he was cutting corners, going around Michelle Rivera, everything was just aligned and good in that fight. So I think that's his best performance, where you have to judge him to see him at his best. And so I like that performance. It showed me that, wow, this guy is really can give anybody trouble at 135 pounds. Um, and then he had another performance. I think after that was, I think it was last year, which brings almost a year off pretty much, versus Artem. Um, he did pull off the win, but I think it was a back and forth fight. Very very close until he dropped him. I think late in the 12th or 11th round. He pulled up the win. He pulled up the win. So what it got let me know is that one, Artem's just a good fighter. That's just one thing. So I don't want to take that fight and just blow it out of proportion. Like, oh my God, Artem's just a good fighter. Artem's just a good fighter. We as boxing fans gotta stop discrediting fighters because we don't know their name. Like, just because they're not a name brand fighter does not mean they can't be good, and give somebody who's a name brand fighter just props that that fighter was just good. You know what I'm saying? And so that's just one of the things I seen in that fight. Were there some things like that opened my eyes and for me to kind of like, if you're a Frank Martin fan, to be worried about? Yeah, I say that definitely the body shots. I don't think any fighter really likes body shots, but you can visibly see that he was bothered by those body shots, and Tank corner and including Tank, they know that. And so just to kind of move on to the next part I wanted to say, the next aspect I wanted to say as to why especially I think that Tank is going to maybe not you could say dominate at some point, but just win, especially by stoppage, because I think he just stops anybody, especially around this weight class. I didn't like how Frank's energy was at. I didn't like Frank's energy at the press conference. It seems like he's very, very, other than anxious, because you can be anxious, because I think everybody's anxious, but his energy and the way that he let Gervonta just dictate the press conference and how everything was going was very alarming to me. So let me just say this. So if Gervonta wanted to, to get angry and talk shit, then he'll do that. Frank would match energy. If Tank wanted to start joking around, then he'll do the same. It's like Frank was just, I don't want to say replying, but more so going off the energy of Tank. Everything Tank did, he did. And when he did it, it was more of a subpar level of, if you want to say, shit talking, or being playful, or just, I don't know. It just didn't seem like Frank had an identity for himself at the press conference. It's like he didn't know what kind of identity to stick with, if you get what I'm saying. It seems, like I said, like Tank was dictating everything in the conversation, dictating everything between the two energies. You know what I'm saying? And it just really seemed like Tank was punking Frank a lot of the time in the press conference. Like, he would get in his face. It seemed like he would touch his arm or jewelry. I don't know if I was seeing what I was seeing exactly, but it seems like everything, you can visibly see that he got under Frank's skin. You can visibly see that. when it comes to the mental state, if Tank is right here, Frank is way down here. Okay? I don't think he matched Tank in terms of the mental state. Like, you can visibly see this is a new atmosphere for Frank. It's a new place to be, and he hasn't been here. You get what I'm saying? Tank was visibly comfortable. So comfortable to the fact that you got a lot of people saying that Tank is acting different. And the fact that he's acting different, or so-called different, means that he is nervous. To me, it's a bunch of bullshit. I'll say this. Every fighter is nervous to a certain extent. He has a healthy level of nervous. Okay? But he doesn't let that show, if you get what I'm saying. If you're a fighter, you go into a fight, I don't care who you are, you do have a level of nerves because you want to win. But the level of anxiousness that Frank had, you can see it in his face. You can see the projection of that nervousness, of that anxiousness, because he's never been, and respectfully so, he hasn't been in that position. So I can understand that. But at the same time, I think he showed his anxiousness a little too much just by his replies and everything. Like, it seems like he was trying to show that he wasn't anxious, but you can really see in his face and his demeanor the things that he will allow Tank to do in those press conferences and the face-offs. He gave a little bit too much room to Tank. And so that also let me know how he's going to probably approach the fight, if he may make a mistake early or not. Those are all variables that a spectator should have, just based off the press conference. You get what I'm saying? And, you know, like I said, putting the abilities to the side and everything, those press conferences, because they had two, were very telling to me, especially the last one. It's, like I said, I like Frank Martin, but I think this moment is a little too green for him, a little too early for him. And when I say by that, I'm talking about from the mental standpoint, from the mental psychological standpoint of the fight, not physical, because I do think he's prepared physically in terms of he has the ability to compete with Tank. You get what I'm saying? But from a psychological standpoint, I think he's not prepared for it, and he probably should have had another, like, 1 or 2 fights against maybe name brand, another couple name brand opponents or good opponents before you stepped up against somebody like Tank. You get what I'm saying? And I say that just from a mental standpoint. Physically, he will be there. He will be there until he's not there, in my opinion. Until he's not there. Because the mental could dictate what the physical does a lot of times. So that's why I say he may be ready physically, but his mentality has to carry him through that fight. And that's why I think this is probably a little too green for him. You get what I'm saying? Especially going somebody against like Tank. But then again, I understand you don't say no to a Tank opportunity. You may not never find an opportunity like that in your life. This is a business. You get what I'm saying? This is a business. You don't say no to a Tank fight. So I'm not mad at him. I'm not checking his pockets. You feel me? So he did the right thing by saying yes to the fight. But from a if he had his like a chance to give himself the best opportunity and everything went in his favor, he probably would have wanted to fight maybe a Shakur first and then fight Shakur first and then go to a Tank fight, or fight two other credible fighters and then fight Tank. You get what I'm saying? That's everything aligning in his favor. But you don't say no to a Tank fight, so I ain't mad at him. I just don't think he's going to be ready. Although, if you just look on paper, he does have the qualifications to fight a Tank. You get what I'm saying? Number 2 in the WBA, you're qualified to fight him. You did the work to fight him, to get a fight like that. He has the athletic and the boxing ability to compete with Tank. You get what I'm saying? So I don't want people to get this misconstrued like Tank. I'm saying Frank is a bum. Frank is not a bum, because people will get stuff misconstrued. Okay, Frank is not a bum. I'm not saying he's a bum, but from a mental standpoint, I don't think he's there with Tank, and that's gonna be, other than the physical and boxing ability, his mental state is not at the level of Tank. And so I got Tank winning this by knockout. And I think Frank is going to make it very competitive, but I don't think Frank is going to push the action. I don't think he does. I don't think he wants to do that. I don't think he's going to do that, because I think, just based on his psychological state, I think he knows that power is real. Just like a lot of other fighters, I think they know that power is real. And so I think he's going to try to make it just as competitive as he can, but he's not going to push any buttons like he said in the press conference. I don't believe him. I think he's going to try to not exactly fight safe, but he's going to fight as safe as possible. He's going to try to follow the lines to a T. And I think at some point, Tank is going to, I don't want to say necessarily jump at him, but he's slowly going to keep increasing the pressure. Once Tank gets a little more comfortable, he's going to start landing big shots, and that's when it's going to be done. Up until that standpoint, the fight is probably going to be fairly competitive, fairly decent. You know what I'm saying? I think up until that point, Tank will still be winning. But I think Frank is going to try to do just enough every round. I don't think he's going to try to steal, going to try to make any big, point. He's not going to try to enforce himself in the fight, like make any, big points in the fight. I think he's going to do just enough every round until he realizes Tank is really applying a little more every round. But I think he's going to try to make it a 12-round fight. That's what he wants. He's going to try to just make it to the 12th round. I'm not saying he's not going to try to win the fight, but I don't see him doing enough, because he's going to be very cautious. Tank is cautious too, but Tank at some point is going to start applying a little more pressure, and I don't want to say take a risk, but he's going to start hitting him with some big shots. at some point. And yeah, that's just what's gonna happen. But do I see this going 12? No. Um, I think it goes under 9 rounds, definitely. Also, want to say I didn't like the way he looked. He had a really rough weight cut, and that's another aspect to the fight. So I see this fight. You can see all the bones in his face. It's really horrible. I don't know if it's because he put on so much weight or muscle at some point, but it's too much. But I do see it. I do see it under 9, maybe 8, 7 to 8 rounds. Stoppage, knockout by Tank. And one more to add at the end. For the Alexander Volzik fight versus David Benavidez, or should I say David Benavidez versus Alexander Volzik, I have Alexander Volzik with a surprising victory. I think he's gonna surprise people and win this fight. I don't know. Something's telling me. It's just a weird feeling. I haven't seen Alexander Volzik fight that much. I've seen a couple highlights. I don't see David Benavidez stopping him. I think Alexander Volzik is a pretty solid fighter. I see it going all 12. I wouldn't be surprised if Alexander Volzik actually catches David Benavidez with a big shot. It kind of hurts him. But I pretty much seen this fight going all 12 rounds, and I see Alexander Volzik surprisingly beating David Benavidez. Something is telling me he's gonna win. I don't know. But yeah, please like, comment, subscribe. Those are my prediction. Tank Davis by stoppage, knockout, under 9 rounds, probably around the 7th or 8th round. Alexander Volzik for a unanimous a UD decision. But yeah, those are my prediction. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll talk to y'all later.